The only thing he admits initially was that I had performed fellatio on him. That was it.
But you have his DNA all over you.
Oh, yeah.
Right, you didn't spit it up your ass.
Right, exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, and I tell the cop, too, that there's a jar of Vaseline and there's a towel next to his bed from where he cleaned me up.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast.
But I mean, your house wasn't a safe spot for you. Now you got this. Now you got this other place that you're going to,
Yeah.
which doesn't feel like a safe spot for you anymore either.
Right.
I mean, you had talked about suicidal ideologies and everything. Did that creep in again at this point?
It was daily. This was like a daily occurrence. Suicide was so normal for me at this point that it's like as simple as me picking up and drinking this bottle of tea. I was just like, I could just kill myself.
You never committed suicide though, right?
Never did it. Yeah, never did it. Never attempted it. I tried the typical kid thing, trying to suffocate myself with a pillow, but I just wanted to die. I remember sitting outside my window. I would sit on my window ledge like, man, that's like a 20-foot drop. If I do it just right, I'll die. If I just land on my head.
But there's always that thing in the back of your head, but if I do it wrong, it's going to fucking hurt.
Yeah, dude, that's no shit what stopped me from killing myself.
I know. Trust me, I know.
Yeah, so like if I fuck this up.
You'd be paralyzed. You have to worry about someone taking care of you the rest of your life.
Yeah, man, like you can't fuck up suicide, man, because now you're going to get made fun of for fucking up suicide, and you're going to be hurting. Like that's just a bad way to go. So, anyways, my mom gets taken away from me, and for the next 4 months, I was kind of bouncing around, living with random people, family, friends, and all this stuff.
And you're separated from Mr. Vasquez.
No. During this time, basically, I was keeping tabs with him, and he was with me as well, and he would just come and pick me up wherever I was at. Yeah. So, mom's gone. I'm bouncing around. This whole time, I'm like a straight A student. Schools have no idea what's going on. At least I think I don't know. And I'm just like class clown, straight A student showing up, knocking it out. And
great actor.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. My mom, I kind of, this is another jacked up thing, is that for so long, it was always like, what happens in our house stays in our house. Because if you tell anybody, they'll take you from me.
Yeah.
Right. And so
that's the old scare tactic.
Exactly. Right. And so now, I've gotten into that relationship with Mondo as well. We called him Mondo. And where you didn't say anything to anybody, because what's going to happen? Like, what happens if he doesn't get arrested? What happens if he doesn't get in trouble? Well, now he knows where I live. Now he's going to come and kill me. Right.
So I'm sure this has progressed to finally sex.
Yep.
And how long did this go on for?
Yeah. So he raped me for the first time at 13. And right about that time was when my grandparents adopted me. And so when I got to my grandparents' house, I was still going to his house. My grandma knew I was molested at 5. And so she was like, no, like, we're not doing this. But I defended the guy. And so he shows up like it's prom night, walks up to the front door with his best sweatpants and large T-shirt on. He's fucking washed his hair. And he wins my grandparents over. And so for the next 2 years until I was almost 3, I was almost 16 years old. I was a month away from being 16. And at this point, it had been going on for almost 6 years, right? About 5.5 years, give or take. And I get to his house, or I'm up at his house one weekend, and I have a friend with me who's a little bit younger. He's a couple years younger than me. And this guy, he would always make jokes about me, about fucking me, to other people. He would say, like, oh, we're going to go back, I'm going to fuck Seth tonight, or Seth's going to blow me. And, like, all these adults would just, like, laugh around the table as we're playing cards.
Yeah, because who would be so brazen to say that?
Exactly.
It's actually perfect cover.
It is.
It's
really
a great
is.
cover.
Yep. Yeah, it's like, yeah, of course I'm cheating on my wife. It's like, so he started making these same jokes about my younger friend. And I was like, the audacity, like, you fucking asshole. Like, you're going to do what you did to me to him right in front of me, And so I was like, nah, man, I can't let this happen. So my friend goes back in the bed with him. That was the first time I ever remember him going to the bed with him. And I was like, can't do it. So playing video games, and Jacob is online. Jacob is the one who introduced me to him, right? And I messaged Jacob, and I just said, hey, I need you to come over tomorrow. I got to talk to you. So he comes over the next day. Mondo drops us off. Jacob shows up, and we talk for a little bit, but then I'm in my bedroom, and I'm pacing back and forth, and I'm like, hey, I got to tell you something. I don't know how to tell you. And this goes on for like 15 minutes. I'm just like, I can't say the words. They cannot come out of my body. And out of nowhere, Jacob just says, he touched you, didn't he? And I turn, look at him, and I fall to the floor, right? Break down crying. Same feeling I had when my mom was taken away from me. Same feeling again. Just this like deathly feeling. I felt like I was melting. And the next thing he says to me is he did it to me too.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Did Jacob bring you into the picture to get Mondo off of you, and now you're the next victim? Is really what it comes down to.
So looking back on it, I didn't know what was happening at the time, but Jacob and I have recently sat down and about a month ago now and talked about all this. And he was clueless. He thought it stopped with him, and he had no idea that it was happening to anybody else. Truly, he was clueless. And
I thought I was special.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was the same way, right? I had no idea. And what makes matters worse is if you have an older brother in your life, or if you have a father or another man that you really look up to, there's nothing that can happen to that guy, right? Like, he's like undefeatable. Like, he's just like this fucking stoic man. Yep. Can't touch him. And so when that happened to Jacob, I was just torn apart because he was my protector. He was the one who held me and helped me for so many years. And so to hear that was crazy. So we go out, we tell my grandparents, and so this is, like I said, about a month before I turned 16. And so it went on from 10 to 16, basically. And we tell my grandparents, we call 911, go to the hospital, and cop shows up. I actually got to meet the cop again, which was really cool. Got to hear his side of the story, which was like mind-blowing.
Yeah, it blows your mind.
Oh, dude, it just opened up so many. It was crazy. I'm actually working on getting the footage from that interrogation. Anyways, so he shows up, and what was crazy was his last name, and I noticed it, and his wife was my teacher when I had first started getting molested, which was like, oh. So anyways, we're at the hospital, and they're like, well, how are we going to get this guy? Like, we got to have something to get him. Otherwise, we can't just go in there, and we got to have some sort of hard evidence, you know?
What are you going to do, like a rape kit, right?
Yeah.
Well, if it's too far gone, he hasn't, unless he's done it recently.
Done it recently.
Yeah.
They could tell trauma, but they can't.
Yeah, so he had raped me that weekend, and I talk about this part a lot because the nurses, I remember them being so proud of me because he had raped me that weekend. And I went home that Sunday, and I knew I couldn't take a shower. I knew I couldn't take my clothes off. I was like, I'm going to fucking get this guy. And so I knew what I needed to do. I had seen enough of, like, Law and Order to know, you know? And so we get to the hospital, and I'm like, no. You can test me. He raped me this weekend. I've got all my clothes on. I guarantee it's on me. And they were just, like, blown away. I mean, they were just like, holy shit. And they're like, boom. They take my clothes off to test me. They find his DNA. I tell the cop all this, like, nasty shit that happened to me, like, really nasty shit. And that was, the cop goes up and arrests him that night, basically. They get him to admit. The only thing he admits initially was that I had performed fellatio on him. That was it.
But you have his DNA all over you.
Oh, yeah.
Right, you didn't spit it up your ass.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I tell the cop, too, that there's a jar of Vaseline and there's a towel next to his bed from where he cleaned me up. And they go up there and they find it, you know? And so case is done. Like, they got his ass. Yeah. And so a month or two later, I find out he pleads guilty to like 10 charges. He gets 10 years in prison. That was in 2011.
10 years.
10 years. And he had, between me and Jacob, at least 10 years of pleasure between two boys.
So here's the sad part. Here's how broken our criminal justice system is. Guy gets 10 years for raping minors.
Yeah.
Yep.
For raping anybody, but minors especially.
Two minors,
and possibly a third.
Possibly a third. And how many more were there?
Then you have somebody like Seth Ferranti, right? Seth is a friend of ours. He's a movie director. Seth got caught with no LSD. He sold LSD. He'll tell you he sold it. He got 25 years. Did 21. 25 years. First time nonviolent offender. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not saying what Seth did, and Seth will tell you he didn't do anything right, but he gets 25 years. This guy gets 10 years. This is a broken system.
It's a broken system.
You know what's crazy too? When I interviewed the cop, in Ohio, it's not rape unless they're under 13. And because of the state of the situation that was happening, we couldn't narrow down a timeline, you know. I think I was probably hiding back or holding back a little bit. So it wasn't even rape. It was unlawful sexual misconduct with a minor.
Unlawful carnal knowledge.
Yeah. Some weird
for
shit.
unlawful carnal knowledge.
You know, because it happened when I was 13 or 14 versus 12. You know, that, like, it's fucked up. So, anyways, the guy would be free today, right? Which is the scary part of the story, right? Fortunately enough, he died in 2019. So I'm glad he got to serve a full term. he had pled for parole or whatever you do, and it was denied, and then he died like a month or two later.
There's a special place in hell for him.
Died in prison.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
There's a special place in hell.
There's a special place in prison for those people too.
Well,
because
nowadays,
they generally get their ass beat once they find out. Listen, criminals are criminals.
Yeah.
But when they find out that you're doing something sexually to a minor,
yeah, because they all got daughters.
You become a different brand of criminal.
They all got daughters and sons, and they do love their children. And yeah, there's a little bit of jailhouse justice.
I've heard that there are so many pedophiles that are incarcerated now that they have their own division.
Avenel.
Oh.
So Avenel Prison in South Jersey is where they put them all.
Okay.
That's. Listen, I went to high school with two guys that are in there.
Yeah.
But now, Kev, isn't it like a smorgasbord for them though?
No, because they're around each other, so
Right.
they don't.
They swap stories.
So it's not. So what I know about child sexual assault is it's not about the sex as much as it is about
the dominance,
the power.
Sure.
It's
yeah.
I'm sure it was sexually gratifying for him. Don't get me wrong, but that's what I understand about it. It's the thrill. It's all that stuff. That's what excited me, because I guarantee you, when you got too old, you were going to be pushed by the wayside.
Sure.
You just weren't his cup of tea anymore.
Well, that's why you said when you brought the younger friend around, that's why you started bringing the younger friend.
And again,
that's why Jacob started it, and then you came in. Yeah. And then you brought your younger friend in.
The things that come out of my mouth are all my opinion.
Sure. Yep.
Obviously, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm looking at your situation and I'm like, man, you know what? You went through a lot of horror, but you came out on the other side.
We talked about it before, resiliency.
So what are he goes to jail. What are your after effects? What are your long-term effects?
Initially, I was fine. I was like, the biggest thing that happened initially was like I didn't have any plans the next weekend. I was like, what the fuck am I going to do now? Like, I don't...
Not get raped.
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah, so like I did start to hang out with friends from school a lot more, which is cool. The effects of it, though, were every girl that I talked to, it was very, very sexually motivated. Every single girl I talked to, I just wanted to have sex with them all. And I wasn't, at least I don't think I was looking for any kind of justice or verification to myself. I was just like, man, like I really want to have sex. Like I got to the point where like I would take a girl on a date and I'd say, okay, well now we're going to go back and have sex. Like we just met a couple hours ago and now it's time to have sex.
Knock on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Ring the dinner bell.
Yeah. So it was like, I didn't realize it at the time how bad it was. Looking back on it, I do know that I was definitely not okay.
Well, my opinion with that one is there's two reasons. Number one, you think any affection is shown through sex, or you were either trying to prove your masculinity.
Yeah, and it was
say.
Probably a combination of them. I certainly did want to prove my masculinity. Because over all these years, you're in the back of the bus because this is all happening while I'm in school. So on the back of the bus, the guys are talking about what girl they kissed or what girl they touched, and I'm like, every weekend, I'm like, So yeah, there was probably a combination of that. Yeah, so when I got older, the long-term effects now are just general intimacy. So I'm working on it now with my wife. I've kind of told myself, like, I need to do this now. I need to be more intimate with my wife. And the biggest thing for me is, like, PDA, like public display of affection. For some reason, it makes my freaking skin crawl. And I feel like I'm being watched. There was a time, one time my wife had looked at my kids and said, they're like, hey, guys, look. And then she gave me a kiss, just kind of show her affection in front of the kids, I guess. And it wasn't weird, but to me, it was just like,
We don't do that in front of the kids.
Yeah, it was just like this feeling that somebody was watching me enjoy, pleasure.
Do you understand that you've been closed off? If you look back at your life, what happens in the house stays in the house. What happens in Mondo's house stays in Mondo's house. Now, all of a sudden, your wife, who seems like she's normal and well-adjusted, is trying to act normally, but it's just total abnormal behavior.
Yeah, man. Holding hands in public, oh, man. So I'm working on it now.
I was going to say, do you think she's trying to help you out in this now?
I think so. And I think for so long, we've been married for 7 years, I think now, 7 or 8 years.
No, don't get it right.
Yeah, I know.
She's going to watch this. You better
tattooed on you. That's what I did right here.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Yeah. We've been married long enough that...
there you go. Good idea.
That I should be, or I say I should be. I think that since we have been married, she has tried to reach me. And I think my pride and ego has gotten in the way so much where she's tried to help me, and instead of me accepting the help, I'm just like, you don't fucking understand me.
Exactly. But you were just about to say something and you cut yourself off. You should be over it. You're never going to be over it. You never.
Right.
It's always going to be in your mind. So
Yeah.
it's always going to be in your mind.
It's part of you.
It's
Yeah.
part of you.
Yeah.
Listen, and it's part of who you are today.
Yeah.
And listen, you're still here. You're laughing. You're breathing.
And you're going out and talking about it.
You're going out and talking about it. You're helping other people out. It's part of who you are. Don't ever say you should be over it because you're never going to be over it.
Yeah.
Believe me, you're not.
No.
I mean, I don't want to rain on your parade.
Yeah.
You're never going to be over. This is part of who you are. This
Yeah.
is part of your upbringing.
Yeah.
So the one
Use it to help other people.
Right.
So the one thing that I want to talk to you about, because we're getting near the end here, you were molested as a child. Did you ever have those come around you and say, well, you were molested, and most molesters were molested as children? That fear of people having their children around you, especially now that you're starting to come out with all this stuff?
I had like a YouTube person say something one time, which I thought was I laugh at those comments. He said, if you ever get those feelings, you know what you need to do. I'm like, well, kill myself? Oh, okay, whatever. So that was kind of funny. I don't think that the people around me, most of the people don't talk about it. They don't even want to bring it up. They just act like I'm not talking about this, which is kind of funny.
Let's avoid it.
Yeah, let's just, and I get it. It's not something,
The pink elephant in the room.
Yeah, when people ask me like, "Oh, why are you going to New Jersey?" Like on the plane, I'm like, "Well, I'm a motivational speaker." Well, what happened? Well, you really want me to ruin your day right now? So like I get it. I don't want to ruin anybody's day.
Unfortunately, I got motivated.
It all started with a video game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, there was this guy.
Yeah. So
when people ask you, well, how'd you get in touch with this person? Well, it all started with a trans person. Yeah. And then it'll jump off from there. And I swear to God, and you'll see people go, all right, well, I don't really want to know the rest.
Yeah. So it gets kind of heavy really quick. So people have not approached me about it yet, but it's only been 3 months. I've only been talking about this now for 3 months. Yeah. So this is all like really fast. When those conversations do come up, I don't know how I'll handle them. I had a really good question asked of like, what are my kids going to do when in 10 years from now somebody finds out their dad was raped, and we'll handle that when we get there. My job is to raise 2 good, resilient children that can handle that shit.
Hey, man, dude. Apparently, I don't know you as a father, but apparently you're doing a good job, man. Keep up the good work.
So I know you're writing a book.
Yep.
So what else you got going on now?
So writing the book, that'll be out later this year. Looking at like September, October, November timeframe to publish. Tentative name is Strength Beyond the Shadows, hence the Instagram name, which is Go Beyond the Shadows. I've built a website, which is sethgehle.com. That's kind of my platform right now. Not really being used a whole lot, but if somebody wants to Google me, they can at least Google me and find me.
It's Gehle.
Yep.
Gehle.
Yep. Gehle. And then the motivational speaking career is kind of kicking off. So I'm doing the best that I can to network and to find gigs. I've done a handful of them for different reasons. Nothing really what I've kind of talked about. I did them for construction stuff, but I recently spoke at the University of North Georgia. Spoke to a bunch of high school students. That was really cool. Spoke to like 45 kids. Like 6 of them came up to me crying afterwards, like looking for help and healing, right? Which was incredibly powerful. But it's just a testament out of 45 kids. If 6 of them come up to me, imagine what'll happen if I talk to 1,000 of them,
Exactly.
If everything, I touch all the bases, single parent, no father, drugs. I mean, I'm the freaking multi-tool of like this childhood trauma that you can have.
And
You are the epitome of childhood trauma.
And you are also the poster child for what a predator looks for.
Yeah, exactly. I checked all the boxes,
Yes,
so
you did.
I was the perfect victim. And then I'm speaking at the Children's Hope and Healing Center. They selected me as their keynote speaker for their 40th annual gala in August. That'll be down in Gainesville, Georgia. So I'm super excited about that. Get up there and hopefully advocate for children.
Well, you have to be that same person you were right before you turned 16, where you finally blew the whistle on all this stuff because you didn't want anybody else to go through what you went through.
Yeah, I think if as a young man somebody would have came in and said something at school like because what happened to me in school, right, was people would come in and talk and they'd say, hey, if this is happening, you need to do something, this, that, the other. But it's like, you don't fucking know me. And you're telling me I can do this and get through this and be this great person in life, but you've not experienced what I've experienced. So how the hell can you tell me?
So now you going out and giving those speeches, someone knows, one of those kids knows that someone else has been through it.
Yeah.
And that's what's so special about you and special about your story.
It makes you more approachable, right?
Yep.
If you tell me you're from Ohio, I'm like, dude, I'm from Ohio. Like, let's go, man. Like, we're best friends now, right? So, like, it's just that relatability that opens up that conversation to let these kids heal.
But,
And-
if he went up to someone and said, I'm a Browns fan, there's no other Browns fans in the world.
Yeah, you're alone.
So
on that
you're
one,
alone
man.
on that one.
Well, exactly. And
Do they still have a team?
but that's a great point because I was like that Browns fan in the classroom, right? Like, nobody else is a Browns fan. Like, nobody knows. Nobody wants to talk to me. Like, they really don't want to know what's going on, you know?
Lesson learned: don't be a Browns fan.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're coming to the
Write that down, Kev. Don't be a Browns fan.
we're coming to the end of this thing. Before we get to our last point here, just give out your social media again.
Yep. So my Instagram is Go Beyond the Shadows.
We'll put links to everything.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And then, if you just look up my name, you'll find it too, Seth Gehle, and last name is Gehle. You Google me, you'll find me. I've got enough podcasts and Instagram shit out there now that you can find me. So
we end every show the same way. You've gone through this kind of life of horror to get to where you are now. And your suffering has had to teach you something. If not, it's a really wasted opportunity. I'd love to know what your suffering has taught you.
suffering creates endurance. So it's funny you talked about the Bible in the beginning of this. I'm not a religious man, but I do love the Bible for the morals and ethics and lessons that you can learn from it. I listened to two great ones this morning, but one of them talks about suffering and suffering creating endurance, and endurance creates character, right? The more you suffer, the more you can endure. The more you can endure, the better your character generally is, or it can be. And then a strong character creates hope and inspires hope in men, right? So through all this suffering, I've become an incredibly and resilient and enduring person. I can do anything in this world because I've already been through the worst shit you can go through. There's nothing you can tell me. I can do it all. Okay.
Someone tells you some kind of suffering, you're like, check.
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah.
I did that before.
Exactly. And so now my goal now is I'm at this character point where I've built into this man that I can hopefully inspire others. And I do that through the things that I do in my daily life, right? Which is just being a good father, husband, athlete. I try to challenge myself with jiu-jitsu, competing, running ultra marathons, like doing this hard shit. And when people see like, oh, he ran 60 miles, and then they find out my backstory, they're like, holy shit. Like,
Well, the 60 miles is easy.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, compared to what you've been
and
through.
that's what I tell people. I'm like, look, man, you would be you don't understand your potential. You don't understand. It's just like in Can't Hurt Me. You know, David Goggins talks about it. When I ran my 50 miler, I was looking for like the epiphany of life. I was like, this is going to break me and this is going to be it. And it wasn't. I was not even close. And so I kept challenging myself. And next month I'm running a 48-hour race. I'm going to try and do as many miles as I can. But that suffering, like I said, it just creates that endurance. The endurance is character to inspire hope. And if there's one thing in this world I can do at this point with all the shit that I've been through, is to show others there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I've won national construction awards. I've been on fucking Vegas speaking on a stage to millionaires, and these people are looking at me like I'm this like perfect guy, and I'm like, you guys have no clue what it took to get here.
You got no fucking clue what
No
I've been
idea,
through.
you know.
But, yeah, I mean, you brought up inspire. You are inspiring. Seth, you definitely are inspiring.
Well, I'm looking forward to where you're going in the future
Yeah.
because you're owning your stuff and you're bringing it to light, and I think you're going to change some minds. But I really do appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys, man.
Appreciate you
It
coming
means
all the way
more.
up, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, your story is going to help people.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, the suffering of fighting back with Seth Gehle. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned. Justice isn't as important as healing. Predators know exactly what they're doing. When bad is normal, bad leaving feels awful. Wounds heal, scars remain. Make sure trauma doesn't repeat, but the most important thing is to endure. And that's going to do it for this episode. Don't forget to go to 234 Franklin Avenue in Nutley, New Jersey. Go see Gus over at Cubita Cafe, some of the best food you'll ever have. Go to popple.com, put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount on your digital business card. Follow us on all social media. That's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Clapper.
Don't even fucking go there after this one. I'm not touching it.
That was a layup. Follow Mike at Mike_Failace. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And, of course, follow the Suffering Podcast. We're going to see you on the next episode.